Hello, greetings, and welcome to lesson number 3 in our series of the 5 Yin Organs. This is the liver episode. Before we just finished the kidneys, and before that we finished the lungs. If you have not watched those videos, I urge you to go back and rewatch them, or watch them so that you can gain the better perspective of where we are today. Now, one thing I did not mention in those videos is the color that you are supposed to visualize as you practice them. That's a little more advanced, but I'll go ahead and give you the colors of all 5 organs in this video. Number 1, lungs. The color associated with lungs is the color white. So when you do that exercise of separating the waters, make sure that you're thinking about the color of white and thinking of the quality of purity. The second lesson, we covered the kidneys, and the color that's associated with the kidneys is the color blue. So think of blue and think of peace. And now, lesson number 3 is the liver. When you think about the color green, green is associated with the liver, and therefore think about happiness. Green, harmony. When we think about green, we think about the trees. We think about the grass. We think about earth. So, when we're doing this exercise, think about growth. Say this to yourself, a mantra. I am growing. I am maturing. So, that's kind of the mantra that you can say as you do this exercise. All right, with that out of the way, let's begin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the same format that I have been using for the previous lessons. I'm going to deconstruct the movement, or chunking it as we call it in neuro-linguistic programming. We're going to chunk each of these exercises. So I'm going to begin with the feet. I'm going to then go to the legs, the knees, the hips, the torso, and then we'll talk about the arms and what they're doing. So, in this exercise first, we're going to be looking at the feet. The toes are going to point straight ahead. I've said this before and I'll say it again. No funky business. Toes straight ahead. Also, I'm about a shoulder width apart stance. Roughly. I say roughly because you have to gauge your own body. If you feel like you want to extend your stance a little more, widen it, you can do so, absolutely. But if you just want it to be narrow, then that's good too. The knees. The knees in this particular exercise is going to rise and fall. What do I mean by that? If I go back just a little bit more, hopefully you can see my knees. They're straight right now. And they're going to bend. And they're going to straighten up again. If you're sitting right now, I urge you to join me. Get up off of your chair and practice this with me. It's more fun when you're in the game. So, begin with your knees straight. Bend them as if you're doing a little squat, or as if you're kind of sitting on a bar stool. So don't worry about the hands for now. And then straighten them up again. Bend them. and then straighten them up again. One more time. Bend them and straighten them up again. Good. Now, when is the bend too much? In Tai Chi and also in Qigong, when we bend the legs too much, that can cause damage to our knees, and too much is over the toes. You never want to go beyond the toes. So really the bend here is not that much. It's just a little bit, and you know that little bit because you know your body. Go at your own pace and go at your own depth without passing the toes. Never pass the toes. For me, myself, I only bend just a little bit because that's all I need. So it's just this action of rising and falling. That's what your hips are going to do. Now, we get a little bit tricky with the hips. That's what your knees are doing, just the bending. Now we're to the hips. This is when things get a little bit more tricky, the hips and the torso. All right, so what you're going to do, watch me. I'm going to put my hands on my hips. I'm moving side to side, basically. That's all I'm going to be doing with this exercise. Side to side. Good. Side to side. I like to imagine that attached to each hip is a magic marker. And you want to point with that magic marker that's attached to that specific hip. So it's time for the magic marker on the right to point towards you. There it is. That's what you can think of. You're swaying side to side, and you have a magic marker pointing out, and you want to point towards a friend. So there we go. That is probably the trickiest part besides the hands. It's just that moving of the hip. Now, I'm not really going into a figure 8, although you might be able to do that. Kind of gives a different feel for what we're about to do. But it's just side to side. Like you're trying to point with your hip. Now the torso is going to follow your hip. So when you're like this, it's not like this because that'll be very uncomfortable. Your torso and your hip are aligned and in harmony. That's something else in Tai Chi and Qigong as well. Your waist pretty much governs the movements. Your waist and your Dantian area governs the movements. Okay, so we got this down. Let's add the legs with the hips. This will be fun. All right, at the end of scooping up water, my knees are slightly bent. They're not straight, and they're not all the way bent. So find that middle ground. Inhale. Bend a little more. Turn to the side. rise up. Bend the legs, turn the side. Rise up. Bend, turn. So now your left side of your body, led by your hip, is pointing forward. So you see the action here? When you go to your specific direction, you rise up. And when you go back to the middle, you sink down. All of this is going to come together, and all of this is going to make sense. All you have to do is just practice this. We'll talk a little bit more about the breathing, different breathing patterns that you can do with this exercise. But right now, this is actually a pretty good exercise for your legs. Definitely a warm-up. For the younger folk, definitely a warm-up. For the older folk, this can be an exercise. Good. All right. So we got that basic movement down, what the torso and the hip is doing. Let's talk about the hands. This is the trickiest part. And that's common in all Tai Chi Chuan and all of the Qigong exercises as well, is that our hands are the trickiest. In Tai Chi and also in Qigong, the hands are referred to as the flowers. They add beauty to the movement. So you basically, your whole body is one big tree or one big roots on the ground and all the way up to the flower that extends out and so on and so forth. I think of that word tree. We're one big tree doing Tai Chi. These are the leaves, the hands. They add the beauty to it. All right, so let's erase everything else out. Take all that out of the picture. What we're going to be focusing on now are the hands, the arms, and the hands. All right, so at the end of scooping water, we end with this posture known as the Wu Qi posture. Your arms are relaxed, song, loose. And your arms are away from the armpits. The reason for this is so that blood circulation and qi circulation will be good throughout the body. I want you to see if you can check to see if your arm is away from the armpit. Just slide your hand in there just like this. If you can do that well enough, then you know that you have good space. The Chinese say, visualize a hot bun. A hot bun underneath the armpit. More of the Western teachers say, visualize an egg underneath the armpit. I like that illustration. The reason for that illustration is if you close up, you crack the egg. And if you open your arms, then the egg will still remain there. So, what are the arms going to do? What I ask you to do is simply watch. Watch me perform the movement, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, you see what I mean? You see how it flows. And this can get really addictive very fast. Good. All right, so at the end of scooping water, my hands are down to my sides. I inhale. My hands lift up, and I'm using basically abdominal breathing throughout the whole routine. Basic abdominal breathing, meaning when you inhale, you belly comes out, and then when you exhale, you squeeze that air out. So our hands, the practitioner's hands float up to about belly level. The left hand, this hand here, is going to turn palm face down. And then it pushes out. This whole liver routine is called open the gate. Push. And now, as my hand extends, my palm, my wrist, my arm turns over so that the palm is facing toward heaven. The back of the palm is facing toward earth. Now I'm going to draw this arm in, back to the belly. And then my right hand rises up, turns, palm facing down, and pushes forward. Extending out. Next, after the extension, my right palm turns over so that it is now facing heaven. And then it retracts back to the body. And then my left hand pushes forward. And then my palm turns up. Let's do this together. Let's do this exercise together. And I want you to take note of the arms for now. Don't worry about the rest of the body. Just play with the arms. Just follow me as best as you possibly can. You know what is right. I'm going to go ahead and add everything else in there too, because it just doesn't feel right without the swaying of the hips. Push the gate open. As you inhale, exhale. Remember, with these exercises, you have the option to sigh. Depends on what you want to do with it. If you want this exercise to be more of a relaxation instead of a chi building exercise, you exhale through your mouth with a sigh. But if you want it as a chi building exercise, you want the tongue touching the roof of your mouth, just behind the teeth, with your mouth closed. Good. Okay, we'll do one more and then we'll break this down even more. Good work. I hope you followed along with me there. If you didn't, rewind it and do that little exercise with me. Okay, so basically when your left hand, we'll say your left hand is going to go out. Your left hand is going out, pushing forward basically. So that's what this exercise does. We'll pick on the left hand here. So it goes, rises up, and then turning palm face down, it pushes out all the way. Turning palm up, it retracts back to your side. Again, your palm rises up, turning palm down, and you push it out. Turning palm over, facing heaven, retracting it. Inhale, your palm rises, turning the palm over, and then pushing out. All right. And then turn over, and then retract. Let's go to the side. Side view here. Your palm, your left hand is resting by your side, belt level or stomach level. I'm doing stomach level. Push out to the side. Pushing out, center actually. Turning palm over, retract. Inhale, breathe in. Push forwards. All the way. And then turning your palm over, and then retract. Your right arm is going to do the same thing. So let's turn to our right side. Right hand is by your stomach. Turning palm over. Push forwards. Turning palm over. Palm faces heaven. Retract the palm. One more time. Turn and then push. Turn palm over. Retract the palm. Okay. All right. That's what the arm is going to do. The arm follows the waist and the dantian. One last thing that I want to do. I'm pulling up my sleeves for this one. We're about to get dirty, but not really. But what we're going to talk about is the wrists. In Tai Chi and in Qigong, there's a few rules about the wrist that I want us to think about and talk about. The first rule of the wrist is this. You see how my wrist is kind of flat right here? It's kind of flat. It's not bent. This is called the Yin stage. Y-I-N, the Yin stage of the wrist. And as I push out, say I'm doing brush knee in the Tai Chi form. Kind of like that, right? Or in this exercise, pushing the gate open. Notice how my wrist starts yin and then, or straight, or in this case, relaxed. And then, as I engage in the movement, I flex it. I push it. And I'm using, right here, this portion of my palm, the knife edge, if I can get a good look here. This one here, and down. I call this the L, because it's kind of like an L. Knife edge, and then the bottom palm. I learned that primarily from Bhagavad. You want to really do the little L and L shape here when you press out. That's why I visualize as I do this exercise. So, your wrist is here, yin phase, and then as I push out, it gets straighter. Never 100% flexed. The reason for that is because that can block qi. That causes tension in your body. That causes tension in the wrist, and tension is basically a qi killer. So it starts right here, and then it pushes out. Right here. So here's how it begins. There. Notice I'm not flexed all the way. There's still a little give to it. And in some yang styles of Tai Chi Chuan, they just keep it straight as they do brush knee. That's the imperial yang, the old yang. They just keep it. They never really flex it. But in this exercise that we're doing, it's important, I think, that we give that a little bit of flexion, not all the way, but just some of it. Still allow it to be a little give to it. So that's the wrists. It starts yin phase here. Yin, 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 yang, 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 basically. And then come up, draw in. Here comes again, yin, all the way in, getting more yang, yang. Turn over, retract. And then that turn, that turning, I'm not just turning my arm. I'm not just turning my wrist to make it look beautiful. I'm using the dantian. I'm using the waist. I'm channeling the qi from the ground, and I'm turning it. So, push up, turn, and then it comes back. Push, push, turn, back, push, and then turn, retract, push, turn. That's what it gives that beautiful and that powerful sway to it. All right. That's the basics of this exercise in its physical form. What's the intent? What's the intention of this practice? Remember, intent leads the qi. Intent leads the qi. So, where my intention goes, that's where my qi will follow. My intention, as the name would imply, I'm pushing the door open. I'm pushing that door, visualize that door right there, and I'm pushing that thing open. Or I'm pushing the gate, as they say, as I'm pushing forward. Now, I don't need to tell you that the arms are what benefits the liver. That's not the case. It's the sway. It's the turning. It's the turning in the thought processes that benefit the liver. Remember the beginning of this video? I said, think about the color green and think about the attribute of growth. Think about everything associated with a plant. When you look at a plant, what feelings arise? Do you feel harmony? Do you feel peace? Do you feel that you get inspiration from it? At least I do. Whenever I look at a plant, I get inspiration. I see how big they are. I thought, I'm going to grow. I'm going to prosper. And those are the attributes that you need while you, in your heart, in your mind, as you perform this exercise. Remember the mantra? Say this: I will grow. I will get stronger. I will have better health. I will become a better person. To me, that's what this exercise teaches. So, let's flow together. At the end of scooping water, lesson number 2, here we go. I'm going to zip my mouth and you follow along, okay? I'm going to do front, and then I'm going to turn so my back is facing you. I want you to follow along both directions. Now, I don't care which arm you start with. I'm going to start with my left. I don't care which arm you start with. It doesn't matter. What matters is your intention and your body mechanics, which we already talked about in this video. So let's go. Now, usually when the practitioner ends here, he stands in this classical Wu Qi posture for about 3, 6, 9 breaths before he begins with the liver exercise. Why? So he can savor the last previous movement like fine wine, and so that he can relax the body. My hands are down by my side. My feet are about shoulder width apart. If it's a little more, that's fine. I'm breathing through my gut. I'm breathing through the Dantian. Dantian breathing. For those of you who don't know, the Dantian is located 3 finger widths below the belly button. A smile graces the face of the practitioner. After the breaths, the hands rise up, palms face toward heaven, and they turn, pressing forward with the left hand, led by the hip and the waist. Exhale, press. Turn your palm over, inhale. Press. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale. Turning my palm up. My right palm is up. My left hand is creepily tracking the center line of my body. And before my right arm retracts, my left arm extends. Inhale. Exhale. One last time on each side. Good. Wonderful. Come back center. Exhale. Now let's go to the back. Here, so you can see my back side. Learn a lot from looking at the back. I'm pushing out my left hand. I exhale. Pushing out my right hand, I exhale. I inhale as my right hand turns over, palm facing heaven. My left hand traces the center line of my body. As I retract my right hand, my left hand pushes out. My left hand, palm turns over, palm now faces heaven. Simultaneously, my right hand traces the center line of my body, and I press out. Push, turn, and push. As the practitioner pushes forward, visualize that you're pushing the gate open. There's a sense of resistance from this press. My feet, my legs are not dead. I'm engaging the legs and I'm engaging the feet through this practice. Good. All right. So that's kind of what it feels like. That's kind of what it is. Continue with me. Press. Good. Push. Wonderful. Inhale, exhale. Visualize as your hand retracts. You're pulling in the good energy from the earth. You're thinking about growth. You're thinking about harmony. And you're thinking about stability. Everything that is characteristic of a big oak tree. Visualize those characteristics. Take them into yourself. And become a better, a richer, and more powerful version of yourself. All right. That concludes today's lesson. Thank you so much. I hope you're loving this video series. If you have watched the first and second, if you finished this video and like them, give us a thumbs up on this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to the Wholeo-Awakening YouTube page. We have a video coming out at least every single day of the week of content that is designed to transform you into the best version of yourself. That's really what we're after with this channel, is helping you guys become better versions of yourselves. We can do this by self-knowledge. We can do this by reading of great commentary texts, which Josh does a lot of. I highly recommend that you watch those videos. Also, we do it through Qigong videos like these. They'll help the body to improve itself. All of that is a great accumulation through transformational studies. Thank you so much. I hope you guys love this video. I sure love this video. I love doing these videos. And don't forget to tell your friends about these videos and share the love with the entire world. Remember, stay in your heart. Always abide there and always abide in love. Next video is the heart itself. Can't wait to see you. Peace.